Andy and
Corinne.
Corinne's right there. Can you not see her on the screen?
Oh, no. Yeah, I guess I can. I didn't.
She's dancing for us.
Oh, there she is. Look at that. Hi.
Brendan, can we go? Can we start? We lost Brendan.
Yes, we are ready.
Okay. All right. Hi everyone. So we are at the July 15th, 2020 Manhattan Community Board 6 Executive Committee meeting. Oh, and we have the screen up. I'm Molly Hollister, chair of the committee of the board, and it will start the meeting at 6:34. So tonight we're joined by District Manager Jesus Perez and Community Associate Brendan Berth. And do we have members of the public on the call? I think we have a few folks in the background. Oh, Rick is on the call. So we have our former chair, Rick Agers, joining us. You want to promote him to participant, to panelist? Can you guys do that? I don't know how easy that is, but, oh, that was fast. Okay, hi, Rick. So I guess the first item is CB6 Secretary Seema Shah will take attendance.
All right. Hi, everyone. How are you?
Hi, Seema.
Splendid.
That's great. Good to hear.
Yeah, I'm flying.
So just as per usual, if you wouldn't mind verbally unmuting yourself and just verbally letting me know that you are here today, that would be great. Kyle?
Present.
Asia?
Here.
Beatrice? Molly?
Here.
John Keller?
Here. If you can hear me.
Yes. Kavita?
Submission of a plan.
Whoops, sorry.
And
She's here.
Okay. Sandra?
Here. Oh, wait. Did you say Sandra or Sandra?
I said Sandra McKee.
Oh, okay. Not here.
What did you say here?
I am here. Sandra?
Here.
Corinne? I think
Here.
she's here. And Brian? No, Brian? Not here, it sounds
Brian.
like. Pam Vassal
Here.
and Claude.
Here.
I think he's here as well. Thank you.
And we're joined by Sandy. I think she's trying, I saw her joined and now she fell off, but she's trying, Sandy McKee is trying to join. So,
Okay, I'll note
All
that.
right.
Thank you.
okay. Oh, hi, Sandy. All right. Thanks, Seema. So we have the agenda. It's up on the screen. So we just need to adopt tonight's agenda.
the superintendent has
Hearing-
another.
oh.
I'm sorry. That's my
Someone
other.
needs to mute, John, mute. Mute
Yeah,
yourself.
that was my other
Please.
meeting. I will mute
Oh,
myself.
you could just mute. Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry.
All right. So we will adopt the agenda, seeing no objections to the agenda. So the last minutes, when we need to adopt the minutes from the June 17th meeting that were distributed earlier this week. Seeing no objections, those meeting minutes are adopted. And we will have, I guess I want to say we don't have any, do we have somebody from the public? I guess we have Eric Goldstein joining us and Megan Liu. So I don't know if Megan's in our DC as well.
No,
Oh,
Eric.
okay, just a member of the
Eric
public.
is,
Okay,
Eric is here though.
I see Eric. Hi, Eric. So we will, with the first item on the agenda, we'll have Eric present on the status of composting program across the city. And then we'll go into our committee meetings, our committee agenda. So welcome, Eric.
Thank you, Molly. Thanks,
Hi.
everyone on
Hi.
Board 6. I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. I'm a Manhattan resident, although not a Ward 6 resident, but we share many of the same problems and challenges. And so I've been asked to very briefly summarize where our city's composting programs stand these days. And like much of the post-coronavirus economic outlook for the city, things are not great. First, let me say why a national nonprofit like NRDC is even involved in this issue. As many of you know, food waste and yard waste, which are the part of organic materials in our waste stream, account for about 1/3 of all of the waste generated by New York City residents. That's both on the residential side and on the commercial side. And unfortunately, the overwhelming majority of this waste is sent right now from New York City and from cities around the country to landfills and incinerators. And both of those are pretty bad solutions for the environment and all of us living here. When food waste and yard waste are sent to landfills and they're buried, they generate methane. Methane is a very, very potent short-term global warming gas. So landfills, largely for that reason, are the 3rd largest source of methane emissions in the United States. If we want to get a handle on the climate crisis, we've got to figure out a way to do some of the easy stuff, which is get food waste and yard waste out of landfills. We send that food waste and yard waste to incinerators, it fouls up the burning process. Already, incinerators are significant sources of air pollution in every place they're located. And if you are burning, you want to have a constant burn, you want to have the temperature the same and all of this. When you throw in food waste and yard waste, which have a very high moisture content, that fouls up the burn, it lowers the temperature, it generates additional pollution and even toxins. So neither landfilling nor incineration is great. On the other hand, you've got composting. In composting, you take food waste, yard waste, mix it together, turn it, and lo and behold, it turns into a compostable soil amendment, which is a useful, beneficial product that can substitute for chemical fertilizers, and it can retain soil moisture, and it can help plants grow. And again, it replaces pesticides, and it's a wonderful thing to have. And so you can apply it to parks, you can apply it to your gardens, you can apply it to highway medians to stabilize the soil, has a lot of uses. And ironically, if the city actually got its act together and collected food waste and yard waste from everyone, we would actually save taxpayers money too. And that's because it's cheaper to take food waste and yard waste and send it to a composting facility, or send it to an anaerobic digester, which is kind of like composting except fully enclosed, where the methane is captured, so you don't generate the climate changing gases. And the city can actually save money on every ton that it sends to a composting facility or an anaerobic digester, as opposed to paying $130 a ton to send our waste to distant landfills and incinerators. The trick is we've got to collect enough of it to make the collection process efficient, and we're not doing that now. Okay, now that's the background. Let me tell you the status of two things. On the residential side, for the last 5 years, we have had a so-called pilot project where significant portions of the city, and maybe folks in Community Board 6 as well, have had the opportunity to opt in to a composting collection project at curbside. And the school systems have also been participating in this pilot. Changes that were just adopted by the council and advanced by the mayor. That entire so-called pilot project that was really serving half the city and intended to expand on a voluntary basis throughout the whole city, that's been scrapped. There's been one other residential program on the for composting, and that one, thanks to a lot of nonprofits and citizens and composters around the city, that one has been taken off of the deathbed, but is still in intensive care. And that's the community composting program. That's the program where people can bring their compost to community gardens or to the green market sites or to botanic gardens in the Bronx and Queens and Staten Island, and a variety of other sites around the city, and there have their food waste and yard waste composted. That program, again, just to give you a sense of this, there was about $100 million cut from the sanitation department budget. Of that, $28 million went to these composting programs. The bulk of that went to that curbside collection that's out. There was $7 million that went to these community composting sites, and that went to Grow NYC. Grow NYC is the citywide nonprofit that runs the green markets. They played a very important role. They ran about 75 of the 150 or so drop-off sites around the city at Grow NYC green markets. That was about $7 million. And thanks to Speaker Johnson, because the budget was really, really impossible, and Keith Powers and a couple of other council members, $2.8 million of that $7 million was restored. So as of now, the city sanitation department and all of these local community composters are working to find a way to stretch $2.8 million to cover the $7 million program. The hope is that by September, if not sooner, the sanitation department will announce sites that are now and will continue to be open for drop-off. Hopefully there'll be about 50 sites, which is not enough by any stretch of the imagination, but at least it will keep the concept of composting open and around on the city agenda. And as I'll mention in 1 minute, there's hope for more down the line. Meanwhile, there's a separate city council law that applies to commercial composting, and that's from business establishments, primarily restaurants and other food service providers. Under that law, all of the large businesses and many of the medium-sized businesses have, over the last several years, been required to send their food waste, which they already separate. So that's pretty easy. If you've got a restaurant and it's got a commercial kitchen, you look in the wastebasket of that kitchen and it's food waste. So that makes it much easier to have that material composted because you don't have to sort it out. In any event, these restaurants and stadiums, hospitals, major food service establishments, supermarkets have been required to compost over the last several years. That program is continuing. Commercial waste, not to get you, by the end of this 10-minute presentation, you'll all be at level 42 on solid waste issues in the city. But the whole commercial system is completely separate, as many of you know, from the DSNY. The white trucks, the sanitation department, they do residential and institutional, like libraries, schools. All these other commercial trucks, in and of itself, an issue for reform, they collect from the restaurants. Since the pandemic, most restaurants, as you know, have closed. Others are open just for outdoor eating. So their level of food waste generation is much, much lower. Nevertheless, over the long term, once we get through the pandemic and once the restaurants reopen in one form or another, the commercial composting efforts will continue. So really the crisis at the moment is on the residential side. It's really critical that everyone ultimately participate in composting. We want the kids to learn it at school. We want people to grow up putting their food waste and yard waste into a separate organics collection basket. And so that it becomes second nature to them, just the way for many of us, at least those of you who are my age, remember when seatbelts first became mandatory and our parents and everyone said, oh, seatbelts are so inconvenient, so horrible, it crush my shirt, crease my dress and all of this. And now, of course, it's automatic. That's what needs to happen with composting ultimately. Again, better for the environment and ultimately save taxpayer money. So the two things that groups like Ward 6 can do, if you are so inclined, would be to continue to place some political, or let's just say encourage your local council members to support community composting, which needs additional funding. And maybe we'll get some money from the federal government, and there'll be an infusion of cash in the city budget. That'll be an opportunity to amend the budget and boost this composting. Ultimately, council members Powers and Reynoso have some legislation that would expand the number of drop-off sites. And we and many other in the composting world are supporting that legislation. But ultimately, we need to do what Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, Toronto, the leading progressive cities in terms of waste, all have now implemented mandatory food waste separation and collection. So that, to make things simple, you have a blue bin that collects all of your recyclables. You have a brown bin that collects your food waste and yard waste. And you have a black bin or another bin that collects what's left. And if folks are pretty rigorous about separating, there's a lot that's in food waste. Remember, that's a third of the waste stream and the single largest commodity. There's a fair amount that's metals, glass, plastic, paper, and cardboard that goes in recycling. That's if we had a single recycling system. Let's not get into that issue now. And then you have what's left over, and there's not all that much that's left over. So ultimately, that's where we hope to go. Speaker Johnson had said, issued a big report in April, rather in March, right before the corona outbreak, where he supported conceptually this approach. And our hope is that in the fall, we can get some legislation going that will plan for it. It'll take 5 years to phase it in. So it won't be an expense initially. We're going to do planning. We'll figure out what worked with the existing pilot project or the old pilot project, what went right, what went wrong, how you could design a mandatory system in a way that is easy for residents and supers, that addresses whatever problems have surfaced. Take a couple of years to design that program, try it out on a voluntary basis, and then ultimately by 2025 or something, phase that in. So that's the long-term hope. Right now, we just want to keep composting alive. By the way, at a hearing on this issue, maybe about a month or so ago, it was really great to see New Yorkers from every borough, very diverse, both in age and ethnicity and gender, everything else, coming to talk about how their local community gardens were central to their communities and how composting played a key role in those gardens. A lot of school kids came to talk about how they had programs at their school that they supported. There's a program run by Grow NYC called, and others, called the Master Composting Program, that trains young people, high school and college folks, for jobs in the waste world in terms of composting. They become real experts in this. And so in many, many ways, strengthening our composting programs is a good thing to do, and a top priority for many of us in the environmental world for New York City, again, in terms of climate and getting rid of pesticides and all of that stuff. So there won't be a test on this material, but I thank you for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Great. Thank you, Eric. I think we might have a few questions. Questions for Eric? I thought for sure Pam was going to chime in.
Well, I actually do. I
You
do
didn't
have a
raise your
question,
hand, but I knew.
I'm just curious about how this works just in general. Like, my building does not do composting. So I'm assuming it's a voluntary thing where the buildings agree to do it or not. I mean, I'm just confused about how that happens.
Yeah,
My
the
daughter
way-
lives, they have it.
Yes, you're right. The way the residential program has worked is first they started in, Brownstone, Brooklyn, and in single family home Staten Island. They offered folks a brown bin as an extra garbage pail. They also provided these tiny little bins about this size that you could keep on your kitchen counter. So you could put your daily food scraps into that. And if you were willing to participate in the program, you get that material, and a sanitation truck would come by originally twice a week and pick up your brown bin and then take it to a composting facility. Then the program expanded to multi-story buildings, again, on a voluntary basis. So people who have co-ops that were quote unquote progressive wanted to do this. They got some big bins in the basement, and people got little bins for their counters. Some of them either used old incinerator chutes. Some of them had drop-off places on the floor. The buildings were designing this in ways that were suitable to the building. Obviously, like many things in New York, it's harder to do in a multi-story building than if you could just keep a bin in your garage or backyard. But there were a number of buildings that were participating, and where the building residents wanted to do this, it actually worked out pretty well. At the same time, the city added many of its public schools. And that program is actually continuing, which is one tiny good thing. So if you walk by just about any public school during the week on the right pickup day, you may see 8 or 10 of those brown bins out there. One of the things, by the way, that we're trying to do is see if we could use all of those public schools as drop-off points, at least temporarily, so that folks who happen to live around a public school can just take their food waste there. Again, everyone knows that most New Yorkers are too busy, too hectic, have too many other things going on to take their food scraps to a drop-off location. So the drop-off idea is really just for the folks who want extra credit, the real folks who self-identify as environmentalists. But it does keep the concept alive and going, and provide some valuable compostable material for the city to use in its parks and other things. Ultimately, we should think of this just as an essential service, just like many other essential sanitation services. And I think we will get there. But it's always nice when we have support of community boards. A number of boards have expressed interest in supporting this concept in one way or another. And it's been really just very nice of you to invite us tonight to share a couple of thoughts and give you the background.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, Pam is the chair of the Parks Committee. So that would be the committee that would be creating that resolution of support, or just hearing the presentation. So I don't know if we don't meet until, they won't be meeting until September, I believe. Is that true, Pam? You're not meeting?
That is true.
Okay. So I
Yeah.
didn't know if you might.
Sorry, Molly, that's fine. Let's put it this way. The city council is not going to be doing much between now and September. So that the timing on that would be good. I would be happy to answer any questions down the line, Pam, and you all can reach me at eGoldstein, EGOLDSTEIN @nrdc.org.
Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming to talk to us, or coming online to talk to us tonight. Appreciate it. All right. Thanks, Eric.
pleasure.
You're
Thanks for
welcome to
having me.
stay on if you like, but I don't know if you're so inclined.
I think it's dinner time, so I'm going to head out.
Good.
To,
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. All right,
Thanks
take care.
again for having
All
me.
right.
Take care, all.
Bye.
Thanks for your service. I know it's a thankless task many times, but critical to running the city, which we all love. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Take
having
care.
me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, so we'll move on to chair's reports. So I have a few things, and hopefully we can have Jesus and the committee chairs cover some of these items. But again, so the public safety, I know that we talked about in transportation committee the other night. A few folks mentioned bringing back a public safety committee, and I think for now we I talked to Corinne and some other folks about having the 13th and 17th precinct come to her committee to talk about some of the issues, because they are around, human rights, homelessness issues, I think specifically, but maybe they could talk crime stats. We can start there and move forward with that. I did speak with the other Manhattan Community Board chairs, and we're looking to form a working group, and that might mean like, 1 to 2 people from our board. If we can be thinking about this, and raise your hand, or if you have folks from your committee that want to do this, but to talk about gentrification, systemic racism, kind of all the things everyone's talking about right now, inherent bias. We're Manhattan Community Board, so I think a lot of them in Midtown Manhattan, may, we need to be thinking about these things in a different way. And I think, again, it's 12 different community boards. There are a lot of different issues, but everyone's really wants to kind of start talking about that as a group and coming up with, ideas about how we can kind of awareness to our districts and our boards around these issues. So I'll report back more about that later. And I think I mentioned this before, but Aaron Humphreys has been on our board for 10 plus years, and he's moved to Philadelphia. So we will be honoring him in September as September full board. So it's kind of a bummer, because we'll be obviously honoring him probably most likely on Zoom, but we'll create the same, kind of ritual that we typically do to honor a past member at that board, at full board. Thank you, Asia, for going to the borough board tomorrow. They usually have it at 8:30 on Thursdays, the third Thursday, and they started to have it at 10 a.m., like right in the middle of my work day. So it's kind of a bummer, but I really appreciate Asia doing that. And since Rick is on the call, we do have elections coming up, and his elections committee is, I don't know if you just want to update on anything going on with your committee. It's moving forward and nicely, it sounds like.
Yeah, we met last night, and we're going to meet next week and pull together our final report.
Great, thank you. And Claude, I talked to Raj, and I know Raj was interested in like helping out with mentoring too with you and Asia, but how is that going? The new member mentoring?
Oh, they just have an assignment which is due in September. It's
okay.
It's all up to them.
So you're not meeting right now in the summer months? Okay.
Meeting, no.
And Molly, I actually did a couple of Zoom calls with a couple of new members to just encourage them to participate, and some to answer any questions that they had. So I offered it to everybody, but only 2 of them took me up on it.
Oh. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. So that's all I had. And
Molly. They have
yes.
been communicating between themselves, though.
Good. Oh, good. That's good to hear. Yeah. Thank you. So and I did want to mention, and for all of you to be thinking about it, especially like up near Sandy, and actually in my area of the district, there's a huge lag in the census reporting, kind of like my 35th and above in our area, the Upper East Side. So I don't know if for some reason, I think everyone's either they're out of town, or so we were missing a lot of, it's very low turnout for the census. So if you guys can, I don't know what we can do as a board to
Ask
get
Sandro
more.
how to do it.
Sandro? What did he do?
I have a question. Could we send out an email to all the tenants association, like target it there,
yes.
and encourage them to
yeah,
even put the link on, because we do have access to tenant associations.
Yeah,
we have all their lists.
Building.
We did to a couple of tenant associations, like Stuyvesant Peter Group Village. But yeah, that's an excellent idea.
And
Make
then
sure
we
they
had,
follow up.
I know the Tudor City Association was a big red flag that area. So I emailed them, but I haven't heard back. But that's a great idea. So
Yeah.
I'll make a note to get that. We can do that.
I don't think people understand, I don't think they understand what happens as a result of the census. And I
Right.
think that's the problem. They just think it's another piece of paper to fill out or,
Yeah.
Online. But, somehow that message has never been made clear.
Well, there are a lot of campaigns. It's out there everywhere, but maybe it's just me that I'm tuned into it. So I'm, I hear it everywhere. But yeah, I'm surprised there's just a lot of people that aren't filling it out in my area. It's shocking.
Yeah, but
all right.
Pam makes a good point. I guess if we send it out to the tenant association, kind of connect the dots. Like this
That's
is
what
why it's important, and this is
Right.
how to do it, right?
Yep.
Thank you.
So all right. So
You want
Jesus,
better infrastructure in subways, right? We all complain
all
about
of that.
transportation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Liz Kruger said we will, we'll be losing some. We could potentially lose a Congress 2 congressional seats, which would be awful.
Not good.
Oh, I see you froze up.
Just FYI, we have been putting that information in our newsletter and even linking folks
on.
to a flyer that they can print out and put up in their individual buildings.
So Jesus, did you already send it out to all the neighborhood associations?
We have not done that. A lot of our neighborhood association list is outdated, so we need to sort of rebuild that. That's the issue.
Yeah, we have a pretty, mine's pretty updated. So maybe I have like I just updated on my own. So I'll send you what I have. But like the Tudor City one was the only one that was kind of just an email address, But okay, I'll work on that. I made a note. We can talk. All right. Well, I'll let you district managers report.
All right, a quick minutes update. I'd stopped doing my monthly minutes report because we were doing pretty well for a while, but we're starting to backtrack a little bit, so I'll bring it back, especially since it's easy to forget about the minutes that the members have outstanding over the summer. BASA, the office went ahead and drafted the minutes for the June 10th joint meeting with transportation because it was very short. Matt Bondi is drafting the late June minutes, so there's still a little bit of time. But just wanted to alert you to that. Parks, we're missing the minutes from May. We understand Reshma's writing, so I guess you'll need them for your September meeting. Transportation, that meeting just happened, so Joan is writing those. Otherwise, up to date. Housing, Claire is writing the May meeting minutes from the joint meeting with Health and Education. And Raj is drafting the minutes from the joint June 8th meeting with budget. And the office drafted the meetings for the June 10th joint meeting with, so we'll need the May and the June joint meetings before your next meeting in September. Land use, Letty is writing the June minutes and those will be for September. Claire is writing the May joint meeting minutes with housing for health. Budget, Raj is missing the June meeting minutes. I'm sorry, Raj is writing the June meeting minutes, and the committee will need to adopt 2 sets of minutes upon its return in September from June 8th and June 10th. 197A is all up to date on its minutes. I will also ask the chairs to encourage your members to please spread the work around. We still are seeing in some committees that the same 1 or 2 people are writing the minutes over and over again, and whenever volunteers are asked for, radio silence. Last month, I spoke about the city's identifying information law, which restricts how we can share the personally identifiable information that we collect from members and other folks who interact with the board. As it's been some time since we've updated our list and we now have some new members, just as a heads up, we'll be sending around a form in the next week or so to confirm every member's preference for what information of theirs we can share and what we cannot. So be on the lookout for that. Molly asked me to give a summary of constituent complaints and community concerns in the district. In the last 30 days, 311 has recorded nearly 1,500 complaints in Manhattan Community District 6. The biggest complaint categories were illegal fireworks, insufficient social distancing, businesses that aren't complying with reopening plans, loud music, and homelessness. These requests were spread rather evenly across the district, we found, and there's no real significant concentrations in any one location. The 311 data matches our own incoming constituent requests because those are all the requests that are going directly to 311. Only a small fraction of those actually make it to our office. But our records show that they more or less look the same. And these are complaints that residents have contacted us directly on, either by phone or by email or by using the online form that we have on the new CV6 website. One big issue that we're running into is social distancing, and the issue that we're running into is with enforcement. We found that the city has not really yet set up an adequate system or agency to handle these requests. So we're still working with the city, with the mayor's office specifically, on sorting all of that out. And what we categorize as quality of life concerns remain our biggest category of service requests. Some of the concerns we most frequently worked with this month include social distancing concerns, street cleanliness issues, rat concerns, and concerns with homeless folks, particularly those being housed in temporary hotel sites. And last but not least, please be very careful not to share your Zoom panelist invites when we send them to you. The way we set up, as you know, all of our meetings on Zoom, all the committee members are invited to be panelists, and everybody else is asked to sign in using a public link. At the early July transportation meeting, we saw that there was somebody in there in the sort of as a panelist, as a member would be, whom we did not recognize, who was not with DOT, was not a member, and they didn't do anything. They behaved themselves, but we were wondering. Brendan and I were working the meeting, and we were wondering to ourselves who this person was. So we've been very fortunate not to have any Zoom bombings at any of our meetings, and we'd like to keep it that way. So just wanted to make sure that we don't get lax in our precautions. That's it.
I have a question.
Sure.
Under the guise of social distancing, has the mask issue come up?
What do you mean the mask issue? Whether people are wearing them or not?
Correct.
No, 311 doesn't sort of like splinter off that data that specifically. But oftentimes we found, at least with the complaints that reach our office, it is included. Yes, they're not social distancing and they're not wearing masks.
I have a question.
Sure.
Is the social distancing primarily centered around specific areas like restaurants, bars, etc., or
Yes.
is it okay?
Yeah, restaurants, bars, some hotels, hotels that have homeless folks in them. Yeah, that's where we have found them.
Thank you.
Jesus, I was going to ask about, I texted you the Con Ed. Were you able to reach them, or I don't know if someone in the office was going to reach out?
No, I'm sorry, I wasn't able, but I can reach out to them tomorrow morning.
Okay. Yeah.
Regarding the time frame, you mean?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I haven't sent a note to Dave, the contractor, the lead project manager on that water main project, but it's the DDC water main project. And I don't know, Sandra was on a call with us, and I can't remember if we've talked about this at the last exec, or maybe we met with them since.
I think it was after the last exec meeting.
Yeah. So there's a Con Ed, a DDC water main project happening from 32nd to 37th, from 3rd Avenue to really 1st Avenue. And the project is a 4-year project, supposed to end next spring 2021. And they said, oh, no, by the way, it'll be 2 to 3 years longer, which they're taking up large swaths of street with just staging areas for the equipment and gear. One specific spot is particular troublesome is between 2nd and 3rd on 33rd, 33rd, right in front of PS 116. And it's just, anyways, they I think they were reluctant to share this with us, that it was going to be delayed. But it's a big delay, and the delay is Con Ed. So we've asked Jesus in the office to look into, to try to get a contact at Con Ed, and potentially have to, we will elevate this to our electeds if need be, but I hope we can kind of just start working with them and build a relationship with the folks at Con Ed, as well as this project manager on the DDC team, and just kind of stay on top of this. So anyway, that's all. Jesus, anything else?
No, that was it.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's see. The first committee to report out, Sandy, for transportation.
Yes, and I don't know, Jesus, did you have the two resolutions that we passed? Are we able to?
Brendan has those.
Yep, I have them. Which one do we want to do first?
Well, I guess 38th and 39th Street. We did have a meeting in July, and the DOT came and presented two separate resolutions, or two separate issues. One is to add protected crosstown lanes at 38th and 39th Street. And this actually, they have temporary lanes there currently, and the idea is to make them permanent. And this goes along with a system of streets that they have throughout our district. They're trying to evenly space these out between 14th and 59th. And there was a presentation on it, which I believe is available at the board website. And it basically mirrors what they've done on 55th and 52nd, if people are familiar with those bike lanes. And we'd like them to implement it as soon as possible if we could vote on it tonight.
So, and we could, if there are no objections, if you want to share the other resolution as well, and we can vote on both. This is a non-binding vote, as you probably all know, since it needs to really go in front of full board in September is our next full board meeting. We'll be voting on these at full board, but we do want to vote on them through executive committee. Oh, Sandro.
I was just going to ask, could we see the result?
Oh,
I see it stopped scrolling.
It's very short.
And we've written a resolution on this a long time ago, didn't we, for 38th and 39th? When they put the temporary in?
No, we didn't actually. I don't think we did.
Okay.
But we basically said we want more of these temporary during this particular period, but this one's going to become permanent.
Yep.
And the second one is for 2nd Avenue to continue the bike lane from 43rd Street all the way down to 34th. And this is something that we've been asking for a long time. And they have a temporary one that they put barrels in the road, which is not very satisfactory because they keep getting moved. So this is to finally implement a full bike lane in that area. And it will duplicate what they've done further up 2nd Avenue, where it's protected with parking part of the time, and that will go away when it's peak traffic hours. The other thing is they've arranged to do an offset in front of the Israeli embassy, which is at 43rd, between 43rd and 42nd, which has always been a problem area as well because there are barricades set in the road. And one thing with this particular one, they did not have a timeline for it. So I think we're still going to need to support this and ask our elected officials to make it a priority.
Yes. Yeah.
Can we not add it to the resolved part where we want to give it a time frame?
Well, we say we urgently request installed as quickly as possible.
Yeah, we need it now. And I think that the DOT agrees. I mean, they're trying to get it implemented as they understand the safety concerns, and they said as soon as possible this year. I mean, they kind of alluded to, as soon as they can get it. I I guess just put through, but I think this year.
That's what they're hoping to do. But again, I think if we make it a high priority for our board, that would help them.
Yep, absolutely. Is there a motion to support these two resolutions that were voted on in committee? Asia?
I'll make a motion.
Kyle?
A second.
And just to,
Asia and Kyle second.
it was unanimous for both.
Thanks, sorry.
Okay. All right. So we'll go to a roll call vote. And this is for both resolutions, the supporting the 2nd Avenue bike gap and the 38th and 39th Street protected bike lanes. Is Seema?
Yes, okay, so
Thank you.
bundling them together. Kyle, your vote?
I'm in favor.
Okay, Asia?
Yes.
Peaches is not here. Molly?
Here, yes, in favor.
Okay, great. John?
Yes, here, present.
Kavita?
Oh, she said she had to step away for a minute.
Okay, so I'll keep her open. Sandra?
In favor.
Sounds good. I am in favor. Sandra?
Yes, in favor.
Okay, Corinne?
In favor, and I also have to mention that I was almost hit by a left turning car going into the Midtown Tunnel when I was on my bike. So it is truly one of the most dangerous spots in the city to be on a bike.
And
No
for
matter how you are.
pedestrians too, they're trying to cross there and the cars just.
Yeah.
Brian?
Sorry, you hear me?
Yes.
I'm in favor.
Okay. Pam?
Yes, in favor.
Okay, and Claude?
Aye.
Okay, all right, so I'll note those for both resolutions. Thanks. Is Kavita back on? Just in case I can't see her. No, okay, so when she gets back on, I'll ask her for her vote as well.
Okay, we'll be sure
I
to do
think
that.
she wrote something in chats.
Oh,
So,
okay. Thank you, Seema.
Okay.
All right, so Sandy, do you have a report?
We're not going to meet in August unless there's something drastic comes up, but so far nothing. And then in September, we'll continue to talk about use of the streets. I think that's something that we've been asking the DOT to study, and we're looking at residential parking versus commercial parking and metered parking. So I think those things are all going to be really key, and also trying to make sure we use the streets for our use and not just for cars coming up, because it could, the traffic is coming back. And also, buses, subways, we'll try and get some feedback on those as well.
I just want to add, if I can, that the sale of cars has gone up through the roof. And so parking is going to be a major problem, and that will increase and increase and increase. There's so many cars being purchased now.
Yeah, we need to discourage them from coming into the Midtown Manhattan. Yeah.
No, they live in the city. They're doing it because they don't want to take the subway.
No,
but then they can find a place to park inside. Safer, much safer. And actually, the sale of bicycles has gone up as well.
That's right. You can't find one.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks, Sandy. All right. Well, Pam, you're up. Pam Vassal for
Well,
Parks.
hot dog. Okay, so we had a meeting yesterday, I think it was, with the ESCR Construction Fencing Art Program. And it's a very interesting program, as you probably have heard. I think we talked about this before, but this will call upon local organizations and artists and various groups around the city to paint these murals, as it were, on all this fencing throughout the city. And not throughout the city, but certainly in our area. And so one of the things that we left with yesterday was the assignment of indicating and identifying arts groups that could be part of the decision makers and about how this will be handled. So I'm wondering if you have any ideas for whom you'd like to see included in this group. Claude, I know since you've exhibited at the National Arts Club, if there's a standing group there that might be one of the participating members.
Well, they're looking for a facilitator. They're looking for one person or one group and one person to facilitate
That
the
is
committee,
correct,
the selection committee.
But they're also looking for people to sit on the committee as well.
I can check with the executive director and get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
And that's for East Side Coastal Resiliency. It's just around that project site. So.
Right.
And if I can just interject, the ACS Center is doing a lot of work with the National Arts Club, and they said when the executive director came on there that they want to do more things like this in the community, so they may be receptive to being the facilitator.
And it would be
I had a long
wonderful.
conversation with him about that. That's why I said I would do that. Yeah.
And it really would be wonderful if we could showcase some of our local talented artists. So that would be,
Right.
yeah.
And some of the schools in the area as well.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah.
So if you have any ideas, please let us know and do it relatively quickly because we're going to have this discussion next week. This will be the next meeting where we'll come together with our ideas and suggestions. Also, if you can think of someone who would be like the main person and you could think of someone who you think would be great, please suggest that as well. Okay, am I going on? I guess I am. We have no meeting scheduled until September. I don't know how the community, I forget what they're called, but they're the ones who work in the parks and they remind people to wear masks and to be socially distanced. And they were going to be participating in the playgrounds. So I don't know how that's working. I don't know how congested those playgrounds are getting because I keep my distance for obvious reasons. But if anybody knows anything, that would be very useful to hear.
Let's ask Parks. They're safety ambassadors. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's it. Safety ambassadors.
We could ask Wes.
I think if he's back from his vacation.
Oh, okay. We should ask Parks how they're going in our district.
Okay. You're right.
Go ahead.
Nope, that's it. I mean, I don't have much to report, I'm sorry to say, but.
Well, you've done a lot. So you did, thank you for joining that call yesterday with the DDC for the ESCR. And then you also helped me write the letter to the Parks Commissioner for support of more funding for parks and to open the parks and get them back up and running. So I appreciate that.
You don't have to thank me. It's my job, Mon.
And then I did want to mention, I forgot to, this was in my notes, but CB8 asked us to work with them on they've written a letter to the landmarks preservation, anyway, regarding landmarks preservation issues. And they're asking us to, write a letter as well. So I'll get in touch with you about that. I'll send you what they created. Have you talked to them at all on that?
No, I have not.
Okay. So I need to send that to you.
Hey, shh.
Oh,
also, that's my dog who wants to contribute to this meeting. At the end of this for new or old business, I have something that I want to say. I won't take your time now, but at the end, so I would hope that
calling the question.
Huh?
He's calling the question.
Yeah.
So
okay, I'll call on you. I'll be sure to do that, Pam. All right, thank you. All right, 197A, is Kavita back? Kavita is not back yet. Okay, so let's move to the Budget Committee. Brian Van Nieuwenhoven for budget.
Yeah, I don't have a report. We don't have a meeting for August. When we meet for exec in August, I'll pick back up.
And we did send out lists to everybody. I think all the chairs got their lists for FY21 budget needs or budget requests. So
yeah, and I think I could save everybody the whole spiel about what the timelines are, but essentially confirm with me what your budget requests are going to be before I have my September meeting. And if you have any issues with that, reach out to me personally. We'll work out something where your committee can agree to whatever it needs to agree to. We can also roll over existing budget requests if needed, if you can't have a direct discussion about stuff and your list is going to stay the same. My point of view is if you have a committee and you've already prioritized budget items in the past, we're willing to continue to include those on our budget priorities as if those things are still needed by default. Let me know about things that need to roll off though. And that's it.
Thanks, Brian. Okay, and no full board meeting this month. Yay! Housing, Corinne Vanderdonk.
Thank you, Molly. So yeah, we don't have a meeting in August as well. Nothing planned. However, it has been busy. Thank you, Molly, for being on top of it as much as me or even more. And so there's been a big cluster. The homeless being moved into hotels has created kind of a cluster of hotels that all have homeless in it, and it's residents around those clusters of hotels have started writing letters and contacting CB6 and our electeds, and there's PowerPoint presentations with pictures, and it's quite intense. This is ongoing. This is still a moving target. So I'm just talking with everyone. It will probably show up on the agenda at some point in September. This kind of segues into the whole public safety conversation, where there's been suggested that we just have the 13th and the 17th precinct come to HHHR to give us crime stats and updates. And I think that's a good idea, but I would like to balance that out with something else, you know, like where we're not talking about poverty and drug addiction as something that law enforcement can solve. I mean, it's good to have the numbers, but I don't think criminal justice is a solution to those problems. So if anybody has a good idea of who else can come besides the officers to kind of have another voice to that. There are some part of this we've had a meeting with 17th Street provider of the young the all girls shelter on 17th Street. They will come in September and do a full presentation. I will probably ask ACS to be part of that, because a lot of the older ACS children, girls, end up at this 17th Street provider, and it kind of ties into what Asia and Claude and all of us have been talking about when it comes to ACS and the older children. So it's all kind of coming back together. The other thing that Molly brought to my attention is that the methadone clinics during COVID have found a different solution from people on how people access their methadone. And I would like to, together with health and education, explore what those solutions were, and if we can continue those solutions so that we're not burdening both the people that are being treated at the clinics and the neighborhoods with these methadone clinics if it's not really necessary for people to come and pick up their methadone, if it can be mailed out instead.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're mailed or delivered. You know, I don't know if it's the delivery or however it's received. John, go ahead.
I was just going to say I'd be happy to. You mentioned doing it together with us, and I'd be very happy to collaborate.
Great, thank you, John. So maybe we can send out an email to both our committees and ask for 2 or 3 volunteers to. You laugh. To see who would want to spearhead that.
No, I actually think there will be some real interest in it. That's.
There will be interest in it?
I think there will be, yeah.
Okay.
Let's hope. Great.
And then last but not least, that same group of residents, they really showed us some very troublesome phone booths. We now have the exact location of these phone booths with pictures of what happened, of that exact troublesome behavior at the phone booths. And I think we should just, like, if we do anything, we should have those phone booths removed ASAP. So if the office and everybody else can just be on that, just to even show the residents that are contacting us about these problems that we are working on it.
Yep, thank you. And I know that you spoke with CB5, the group, a lot of the issues they had were in CB5's district, but Corinne was, like, I thank you for connecting with them and making sure that it's not, we're not just pushing it off going, these are mostly CB5 issues, talk to them, and working with this group, because I think there are some hotels that have been turned into homeless shelters until the fall, and we have 3 of them in our district, and CB5 and other districts have a lot more than we have. So we have less than 400 residents in those hotels, and I think maybe some other, there are a lot of different issues, but that threw me off, John, getting a kiss from behind.
By the way, Kyle, thank you so much for putting me onto that Zoom call. That was really appreciated. It was very, thank you.
Corinne,
Absolutely.
you mentioned who else could speak about some of the issues. Didn't you hire a group like Urban Pathways that's working with the community?
Well, no, I mean, it's part of our budget request to have Breaking Ground,
right?
Have an extra team out there.
Because they would be very good reporters of what's going on.
Yeah, and like maybe, yeah.
And also the Flatiron bid has, they get the stats from the 13th precinct. And you might want to talk to the guy who's kind of in charge of that for the bid. He's quite wonderful.
Okay. Is that Timmons?
Yes, Scott Timmons, yeah. And I'll get you the information and send you his phone number. He's great.
Great, thank you so much.
And Claude and I met with the Methadone Clinic on 24th, quite a while ago, probably the first of the year, last part of 2019. And they really do want to work with the community, work with the hospitals. So we should just like keep them, they want to be more connected. They feel like they're not very connected. And so we should be sure. And I know Claude, was Timmons the guy that worked on that?
Scott.
Yeah.
He's very knowledgeable about the whole area, yes.
Is that the same clinic that's next to a building in which those members came to, I think, the health committee? Do you remember what that was, Claude? Was that same?
Cavisa's.
It's next door to my building. So.
Right, this is the same one. Yeah, I remember that because every time I pass it now, I see that. Okay.
They're the opioid treatment clinic. Not
Yes.
They have been better, but I have to say, just to put in my observations, I live between that and the hotel, the Marcel, that's been used as a temporary shelter, and the block has been just crazy occupied with people all day long. Not necessarily, not all in a bad way, but it's been very much like there's been a lot of loitering going on. I thought that the people from the opioid clinic, I'm not sure if it was them, but they were literally like set up shop across the street in front of a couple of stores. There's been a lot going on. It's just, I think it is intense for the residents to see that, just a lot of people who I guess were probably not in the neighborhood before, just kind of in the neighborhood. It's just like a lot of people that are hanging out during the day. I know the hotel has like almost too much security. It's kind of, it feels like overkill. But anyway, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to work. I mean, Corinne, I'm happy to tell you like what I see going on, but I'm not sure what to do about it. And again, I agree. I don't think it's like necessarily like a police issue. It's just trying to figure out how to make a better.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's no point sending police officers over. What are they going to do? I mean, it's not really their, you know, they're not social workers. And then the social workers have nothing to offer.
Yeah,
when they get there.
Definitely someone on the corner, like just across the street, who was screaming like all day the other day, just kind of screaming at the top of his lungs. And I think he was not.
But isn't that something that, like, I know at the bid, if we have a problem, we call Urban Pathways and they show up right away and they go out there. So
you can call Breaking Ground. I mean, they're covering that area. So
I mean, that's why we asked for the extra team, you know, to have more workers. But then even Breaking Ground said, you know, I mean, I one of the things that I just keep on, that I told the people from 29th Street, I'm sorry, I'm plugging in my computer, you know, is that we really need to maybe start pushing very seriously for wet shelters and harm reduction and safe injection sites and safe consumption sites. So that this behavior just isn't happening on the streets. I mean, it's going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just, you know, and obviously housing.
Yeah, let's keep talking about it. It's a health and education, and it's both the committees. So we'll try to get the team working together. All right, Corinne, anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Sandro, for land use?
There's we don't have a meeting planned, you know, and just in terms of a quick update, I'm not sure what's going to happen exactly in September in our following meeting. We did not hear of any delays right now regarding the East Midtown Greenway or the East Side Coastal Resiliency Project. Of course, we're going to invite them back to have further discussion on that in September. And, you know, barring any sort of major land use item, we're not going to be meeting in August. So we're just waiting to hear if there's anything coming down the pike.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. John, for health and education.
Yeah, hi. You know, first of all, we have here a tentative meeting at the end of August. I really think that was overly ambitious to think we could do that, and people are overextended, so we won't be holding a meeting at the end of August. There are two things I'd like to talk about. One, Brendan, do you have that flyer I just sent you?
Yes, just give me a moment.
Yeah, an opportunity came up for us to get involved on an issue that's important in the city in a very rational way, because there is a lot of shouting going on in the city on this subject right now. And it's to co-sponsor with an event that will be hosted by the Community Education Council for District 2's Diversity Committee. And I ran this by Molly and Azia because we had to move on it quickly. And it's about the District 2's request to participate in the NYSUP New York State Integration Project grant to look at ways to improve integration in our, you know, embarrassingly segregated schools. And so there is a meeting that's going to occur on July 28th. It's going to entail presentations by the Director of Academic Intervention from the DOE and Dr. Fergus, who's done a lot of research on the statistics of how schools are segregated in District 2, which covers most of Manhattan. And in addition to ourselves as co-sponsors, Gail Brewer is going to co-sponsor it, and Ben Kalos, who's become very active along with Public Advocate Williams, Jamoni Williams, on a lot of these issues, has also agreed to co-sponsor it. So I think we could get anywhere from 50 to 950 people attending this, because it's such a hot issue. And I think the reason that that the CEC reached out also to Gail and Ben is to try to, someone talked about Zoom bombing earlier. I mean, we want to be sure that this is a polite, controlled interchange. There was recently a meeting of the Community Education Council for District 2 that erupted into Discord, and there are nearly 1 million hits on it on the internet now on some of the things that happened at the meeting.
But
So,
we're not running this meeting, right? Someone
no,
else is
we're
running.
not.
So
We're a sponsor. That was when Molly and I spoke. We agreed that the condition was we would co-sponsor, but we wouldn't be hosting it. So we're not. So the host is actually the CEC B2 Diversity Committee with NYSIP and the Department of Education.
And John, I don't know if you want to mention that this is through funding from the New York State that the CEC2 was given in order to do a study of the capacity, and this engagement is a piece of that report.
Exactly.
Right?
This is a piece of that, and this is we're hopeful and we're virtually certain that CEC2 will get further funding to continue this work, because our schools are so segregated in the district, and it's an attempt by Donalda Chumney and the rest of the committee to come up with a way to address the screening and all of the things that it entails. And we could have a long discussion on that right now, which we won't. I mean, I'm happy to have a long discussion with anybody about it, but I don't think we want to now. But it's a very big topic. It's an incredibly important topic. As you all know, I've been looking for a way to get our committee involved in it in a meaningful, measured way. And this just seemed the perfect opportunity to do that. Molly, do we need a vote on this, even though you've already?
Oh, no. I think we're good. And
okay.
Yeah, the other issue is the contact tracing, and hopefully we can start thinking about how we can, and that's the board office just sharing information too, but testing, tracing, all those things around COVID.
Yeah, I'm aware of. I've followed on their webpage, Community Board 8's sessions on this, and it was a bandwidth issue for me. Perhaps I should have reached out to someone.
Yeah, and Abby can do that stuff too. She's your vice chair, so keep her.
I'll put this on her.
That'd be great. Yeah, because we should focus. There are a lot of health issues right now. We should really be focusing on those.
Yeah, well,
as
I
well.
was thinking in our September meeting that the only reason I'm still holding that August thing open is that if we could sort of plan how to, because with Carlina as chair of the hospitals committee, that it would make a lot of sense for us to do something on that at our meeting in September. That's all I'm thinking about.
Right, there's a lot going on, right? How to get the kids safely back to school.
Well, that's the other issue. I've been spending, I can't believe it, I'm spending more time this summer. Usually it's down. I'm trying to reopen 2 of the biggest schools in the city, Bronx Science and Stuyvesant. And it's virtually, when you look at the guidelines, it means you can have kids come into the school 1 day a week if you're going to do a blended program, which means that a lot of the electives and courses and programs have to be totally reoriented. And it's public, 40% of the teachers at one school have already said that they're going to apply for an exemption to even have to show up at school. Yeah. And then another 40% are going to hope to get one. So this is really not resolved yet as to how students are coming back to school. And I know the UFT has been very vocal. Michael Mulgrew has been very vocal about this, and things written. So that's that. That's what I've been doing with my spare time.
Yeah, like lean on your committee. Lean on, you can let me know, and I can make sure someone else is on some of these issues if we want to stay on top of those things. So, all right, thank you, John. Kyle for BASA.
Hey everyone. So very similar to all the other committees, just kind of figuring it out as we go to see if it makes sense to have a meeting in August. Obviously, a lot of things are popping up, issues that we need to deal with. So we'll see what happens in August and if there are any new applicants. We've just been receiving renewals up until this point, so nothing major in terms of evaluation. But do want to plug in for our July meeting that we're discussing a couple of big things as related to issues that are popping up as we see them. So the first one, there is an assembly bill that is related to business insurance. There are some things that aren't covered under interruption services that affect them. So there's an assembly bill that we will be discussing. I believe actually that some of these insurance plans don't cover pandemic. So there's some state legislation that's being done to make sure that those types of things are covered, which obviously has ramifications for property taxes, landlords, obviously, and all the way down. We're also talking about the sanitation issues that we're seeing with outdoor dining. We're going to have a discussion on that. If anyone has had personal experiences with that or has observed anything, I would encourage you to join our meeting to discuss that as well. That's one of the things that we initially brought up with the outdoor dining, but with everything, moving so fast and not really sure, the city not really knowing who is supposed to be taking care of what, we want to make sure that we are being proactive before things kind of get too out of hand already. Obviously, some sanitation issues were expected, but it was receiving a lot of community feedback about that and want to make sure that we're being proactive about that. And then last item is that we'll be discussing budget. So as Brian was mentioning earlier, we want to make sure that we discuss budget issues. So if anyone has ideas, particularly with small businesses or anything of that nature, obviously a lot of things are different this year. So if anyone has creative ideas, again, I encourage you to join our meeting to discuss those ideas.
Thanks, Kyle. Yeah, the sanitation in the restaurants, there was something on WNYC this morning on Brian Lair saying that it was restaurant owners and the wait staff calling in and complaining about people eating outside, wearing their masks, or maybe not wearing their masks because they're eating, but going in and using the restroom without their mask on in these small restaurants and like the work, so it's a very, small space that people are, and they're not always respecting the restaurant. They're again indoors, not wearing their masks, and it sounds like it's not good.
Yeah, and part of it too is, they do have the legal right to refuse services to their facilities if individuals are not wearing masks. So very similar, we're still continuing with those small workshops at CB8 that I attend the planning calls on every week, and that's one of the things we're trying to make sure that people are educated about, that they are aware of what their responsibilities as consumers are, but also what businesses, their rights are in terms of maintaining safety within their premises. So, yeah.
And the CDC just came out with a report saying that if everyone were to wear their masks in the United States, in 6 weeks, this could be
a month or two.
Yeah.
Wear your mask. Wear your mask.
Kyle.
All right. Anything else, Kyle?
I'm sorry, Kyle. So for calendar purposes, we leave your August BASA meeting on the calendar until you tell us to cancel it?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So if there's nothing else, we're at any old or new business.
Actually, Molly, do you mind if I just go back and get Kavita's vote on the transportation resolutions, please, before we just move on? Kavita, I don't know if you've had a chance to take a look at them or if you need a refresher. Or...
Yeah, just get a quick refresher. I was just trying to pull them up, but I don't have them in front of me.
Sandy, do you want to?
I'm so sorry.
It's crosstown bike lanes on 38th and 39th Street, the protected crosstown. Right now they're temporary and it's to make them permanent. The second one is to extend the 2nd Avenue protected bike lane from 43rd Street down to 34th across the mouth of the tunnel. And there's some more information on how they intend to do that. They're going to get rid of the slip lane, but basically they're both issues that we've been supporting.
Yep. Yes, I would vote in favor of both of those.
Okay, great.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you know what? And as you're speaking up, Kavitha and Seema, I'm sorry, I the 197A committee.
Yeah, I'll give a quick update.
Okay. Thank you.
We're not planning to meet in August, but we do have a lot going on. We actually have committee members working on creating a website around the MSBI sale. We're working on outreach and all sorts of other things, but I think it's more effective for us to just keep going with that than to necessarily convene a meeting in August, and then we'll regroup in September. So, and we're waiting for, we met with Bennett Midland and we're getting some revisions to their report. I think we'll have those next week to finalize that.
Oh, good. All right, thank you. All right, so old and new business, Pam Vassal.
Yes, I do have something that I wanted to talk about, and I'd like you to let me finish. I'm so earnest about this. And so I'm thinking about us as a community board sitting in the setting of a city that is monstrously in trouble right now. Financially in trouble, policing wise in trouble, racial issues, every kind of issue conceivable in the city. Is there something we could do? I mean, we're all really smart people. Is there something we could do where, I don't know if this has ever happened before, where we pool our resources, where we pick 3 things that are really urgent to us, and so that each of the committees focus on those 3 things. Like, for example, bicycling in New York is going to become more and more important at this time. Affordable housing or housing for seniors, something that we can do where we pool our money, where we agree to work on a few things, and where we can really save the city.
You're talking about funding, how we can advocate for more.
I'm talking about funding and efforts in all ways where the committees work together, where it's different than what we've done before because we're in a very different situation. And because I think each of us are very smart, we could sit together and figure it out. I just can't see us going along as business as usual in the midst of this madness. And I think it's up to us as community leaders to set the pace and to do something different. And I know that, you might want to poo-poo me and say, oh, there she goes yapping again. But I feel with a passion that it's up to us to be as proactive as possible to fix some of the things that need to be fixed. I mean, maybe we focus our attention on setting up places where kids can be taken care of while people are working on this absurd schedule of going back to school one day here and one day there. What do poor people do for their kids? Where do they go to get taken care of? I mean, and people are going to be losing their apartments. There are major housing issues. There are, bicycling issues. And I think those are the things that we should focus on. So I'm going to,
thank you, Pam.
I'm going to shut up, but I feel really passionately, and I hope that we can get back to this.
Well, we're doing all those things. So I don't know if you've noticed, but in the committees, we've passed rent reform resolutions and we're pushing the legislation. We're pushing for more bike lanes, open streets, open space. I mean, I'll let the chairs chime in. I know there are a lot of housing issues we've been talking about. We've been talking about education issues and what we're doing with the, homeless kids in our community. So I think we're tackling all those things. This is an unprecedented time. I mean, this is a once in a lifetime situation, and I think we're all experiencing it, and the budget issues. I mean, I think that every committee is tackling it head on, and I think we've done a great job. We could always do more, but I don't know if some of the committees want to share with you what they've done. But we've been doing all those things. I mean, I think we could ask for more funding is what we probably need, especially for our parks and our small businesses and rent reform and rent forgiveness, or I'm forgetting the word, but we need all those things, affordable housing, and we're advocating for those things. So again, like the committees, if you have thoughts on that, I don't.
Corinne
if
would
anyone
like the
else.
floor.
Corinne.
I mean, I do understand completely and agree with where Pam's coming from, where you know, we're just basically asking other people to we're saying, can other people fix these problems for us? Like we have, you know, which I guess that's what we're doing. That's our job to advise. But I do agree that I feel a certain sense of frustration sometimes where I would like to be more hands-on. I know that Rick once said to me, and it will stick with me, said, oh, you know, one day one of these things that you're working on will actually happen. And, you know, you will understand, and then it'll be, you know, but that hasn't happened yet. And so there is a certain amount of frustration there. And in a way, I wish we could just, I don't know, rotate as volunteers in a childcare center, or, you know, like I like volunteer prepping meals at 6 a.m. at, you know, God's Love We Deliver, because I just feel that at least I'm doing something tangible. So if anybody has, you know,
I'm just suggesting that we pull together and maybe we just pick 3 or 4 things. I mean, when someone takes a big job on, they identify 3 or 4 things that they want to make happen, and those are the things they focus on. And all I'm suggesting is each of the committees is doing good work and on all these important issues, but maybe if we pull it together and focus on 3, maybe we could actually accomplish something. It's not good enough that one day we'll see it. One day has to be now, because we're in such bad shape. And I'm done.
I would say we
like to-
fight for the open space and open streets and safe streets. So that's a big one for a lot of committees that we focus on. Your committee, land use, transportation. So we're fighting those, and we're making some headway there. I think it's you know, those things are happening, and that's a quality of life issue. The homelessness issue, I think we're in all those cabs and those meetings, and so there's some awareness around those things. I think we could do a better job of maybe, you know, working with 13th and 17th and the Breaking Grounds of the world and Bowery BRCs of the world, ACS, you know, to kind of bring those groups together.
Molly,
know.
can I bring up a second old or new business item if we're done with this one?
We've got Kavitha and Sandy who would like the floor.
Oh, and then we'll go, and then
I'm
we'll
sorry.
move to you, Stephen. That's right.
Got it, thank you.
Yeah, just in response to Pam, I totally appreciate that. And I think, you know, I'm kind of new-ish to the board, but I feel some sense of hope, like with 197A and MSBI site and what we're really, really hoping to push for. And, you know, trying to get affordable housing and senior housing and all sorts of things that we know the community needs to be baked into that plan somehow. I know it's not going to be easy, and I'm not sure how much success we'll have, but I am hopeful that those opportunities are out there and we just need to push really hard. So I'm thrilled if other, you know, committee chairs want to jump on that too. And
I mean, yes, I mean, absolutely, Kavitha. I mean, you know, Pam, you know, the MSBI project is, you know, one of the biggest things with CVs. If we actually end up making that work, it will, you know, be one of the biggest things we've ever accomplished, I think. And it does address senior housing and affordable housing, but, you know, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and one more hopeful thing, Pam, is today my daughter got approval for this thing she came up with where she's going to work this summer, taking care of kids in our building, like up on the roof, and have like an open air play area for kids so that parents can work. So I think that's kind of cool. And I hope all the teenagers around the city that don't have jobs lined up can come up with things like that. Yeah. So, you know, I think there's some hope there. I think there's just a lot of hard work. And I do get nervous about the changing trends and the neighborhoods, you know, feeling like, okay, I don't feel safe anymore because there's people, and then the tide's going to turn in terms of what people are, how they're voting and what they're thinking in the city. So,
yeah.
And I just wanted to say that I think one of the things we really need to do is connect more with our community. I mean, partly the 197A, but we realize that we don't have a great network of connections through, like, when you wanted to send some of this information out, how do you get it sent out? And we can do work, but we really need, that's part of what we should be trying to do is get other people to do the work as well and to understand what's important. Like, we could organize groups to take care of students, but we can't do that ourselves. We really need the rest of the community to do that.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, when I started on the board, I started because we wanted a bike lane on 2nd Avenue. And it's really hard to celebrate that because it's not there yet, but that was 10 years ago. And that's how long it took. And it's only there now, probably because of the pandemic. So there's hope.
Yeah, yeah. And Pam, I'm going to add in, I agree with you. I do agree with you, especially the sense of urgency that this is going to shift I'm worried that this shifts our city that I love so much that I moved here. But I think that just like Molly said, we are doing aspects of it, and we will continue to remind ourselves that all these things are slowly chipping away at the larger vision, which is to make it a more equitable, safe city for everybody. So we do what we can. But yeah, I hear you. It is worrisome.
Thank you, Pam. I appreciate that. Seema, did you have?
Just really quick, I think it's potentially for Corinne, but the mayor announced his task force on racial equity and inclusion announced an accelerated internet master plan. So essentially bringing broadband to 600,000 New Yorkers, including a bunch of NYCHA housing developments as well. And I don't know if if there's anything like kind of that's directly tied to our district, but I'm curious if we want to propose or write some, something that says like we support the master plan and we're really excited about what the implications could be for our community, our district. I'm happy to just kind of send the link around to everyone. I know that it's somewhat open-ended, but I just feel like there might be some opportunities for us to say like, this is kind of the first kind of broadband as a human rights thing that I think he's really done. I mean, he's talked about it for a long time, but I just feel like this is something I want to support.
Absolutely.
I wonder if I will double check once you send me the link. I mean, the two public housing buildings we have, I think don't have any issues with not having broadband. I don't know if CB6 has any issues with that. I know I've heard, John, didn't you hear through the Educational Council that like areas in the Bronx and Queens had a problem with just like literally not having broadband at all?
It's actually also a workforce program. So it's like bringing the broadband and then like hiring a bunch of local residents to like, actually like put the wiring out and up and things like that. So it's like both a workforce program and a internet expansion program.
I'll have a look at it. Thank you, Seema.
Love it. Yeah. All right. Any other old or new business? Okay. Seeing none, we can adjourn the meeting. It's 8:06.
Hey.
Good night, everybody. Oh, thank you. I'll see you tomorrow, 10 o'clock. Don't forget.
Yeah, Molly, can I call you just to make sure there's anything you want me to say? I'm going to call you. All right.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. Bye,
Good night,
everybody.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.